Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Glad you guys could be here for our training class on Hisense products from Hisense USA. We're going to be covering actually quite a bit of product today. We're going to give you kind of a larger overview of our new kitchen suite that is out. So let me start by sharing my screen here so you can see what I am talking about. And you guys should be able to see up on your screen now that we do have quite a few different options for our new upcoming kitchen suite that is coming out that will be available. And what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the three main products in that overall kitchen suite. So let's get started here. There we go. There's that one. And oh, I just lost the chat all of a sudden. It went to the chat bubble, just kind of went floating. So Miss Juanita, you will have to kind of watch the chat for me because it did disappear on me.
You got it.
Thank you. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and get rolling. We're going to start off by talking about the three main components in our kitchen suite that's out now on store floors. Starting with the refrigerators. Now, we have overall 9 total different packages that a customer could purchase. The dishwasher is the same through all of them. The range comes in either electric or gas, but the microwave is going to be the same throughout all of them. But the biggest difference is going to be in that refrigerator. So with that refrigerator, we're actually going to start with that, and we're going to talk about the most popular version of the refrigerator, which is what we call the HRF 266. This is going to stand for Hisense Refrigerator 26.6 cubic foot. Now, so in this, we're going to talk about a few different things, give you a little bit of overview on the product, some of the configuration, operation, the electrical control systems, and the subsystems. And we're going to go through some of the error codes as well. Now, first up in our product overview, I always love to start off with how do you guys read a model serial number? This is actually going to be pretty important as you're trying to figure out what comes to warranty or what is in warranty, because Hisense is a little bit different than the rest of the market in this. Where most other manufacturers do have a 1-year manufacturer warranty for parts and labor, and then an extended warranty on different portions of the unit, all Hisense appliances have a 2-year manufacturer warranty. So 2-year manufacturer warranty, parts and labor. So it's going to become really important to understand how to read that model serial tag, because you're going to have to figure out if something is in warranty or not. So for our refrigerators, it's going to look something like this that's on your screen right now. So the very first digit in that model serial number, or that model number, I'm sorry, in that serial number, is going to be the manufacturing line that it was produced on. This particular unit was manufactured in my top example there on manufacturing line D. Now the next 4 digits is going to be the actual production year, followed by the next 2, which is the production month, the next 2 after that, the production day, and then the last 5 digits or so is going to be my position that it was produced on that manufacturing line. So if we take a look at the little picture at the bottom from a Hisense refrigerator that I use in my training classes, let's take a look and see when that one was produced. Taking a look at it, we see that it was manufactured on manufacturing line C, and it was manufactured in 2020. The next 2 digits were 2000 or were 11, so that's going to be November. The next 2 digits were the 10, so that's going to be the 10th day of November. And this particular unit was number 170 off that manufacturing line. So that's how you break down the serial number for a Hisense refrigerator. Now, that does change a little bit when we talk about the other units that we will be looking at, such as the range and the dishwasher. But for all of our refrigerators, this is the formula that we follow. As far as dimensions go, this particular unit, again, our most popular refrigerator by far, we have a product width of about 36 inches. We have a height of about 70 inches and a depth of 33.6 inches or 33.5 inches. Now, this is kind of nice though, because it is a little bit larger on the refrigerator side. So we actually do gain a little bit more room on the exterior because we do have concealed handles. Makes it a very sharp, clean, and very good looking fridge. So all of the handles for the French food doors, as well as the freezer door, are all inset into the door. So there is no exterior handle poking out and taking away more space in that kitchen. Now, like I said, the HRF 266, the 266 does stand for 26.6 cubic foot volume. The display or the user interface is set on the top cover. So I like to call it a tabletop on the very top portion. Very simple to use and very easy to read as well. The top right corner of that fresh food section, we do have a water filter for the drinking water. And then the left side is equipped with a water dispenser. And we'll see that coming up in a little bit, but you have to, in order to get water from the fridge, it is inside the refrigerator on a little spout on the left-hand side. So we do have that. Ice maker is in the freezer portion, and we'll talk about that ice maker in just a bit. As far as product configuration and operation goes on this particular unit, like I said, there is my water spout for that cold water right there on the left-hand side of the refrigerator liner. Very simple. Open that door, stick your glass in there, push the button on the sidewall. And then after releasing the button, as always, with any manufacturer that has a dispenser like this in the door, or on the wall, we do want to hold that cup there for about 2 to 3 seconds, as water may continue to slowly flow out or to drip. As far as the ice maker goes, I did say that the ice maker was in the freezer section, which it is. And it does have a very large capacity storage box, holds about 5 pounds of ice. Now, the ice maker itself is a flex tray ice maker. We'll see that coming up here in another slide in just a minute. But it holds 12 cubes of ice, or makes 12 trapezoidal cubes of ice in that ice maker about every 2 hours or so. For the water filter, this is kind of an interesting little feature. The water filter itself, the unit does come with a little tool that will help you take the water filter out, because the water filter is a twist to remove or twist to insert, and it doesn't have much grip area on the water filter itself. So we do provide this little tool that you see there in the picture number 3 on that top portion of the disassemble. That does come with the use and care guide that the user can place over top of the water filter and use that to get a little bit more leverage to pull that water filter out. And then to put it back in, obviously just push it in and lock it into place with that little tool. So pretty easy to use, not too difficult. And you're going to distribute about 2.5 gallons of water every 5 minutes or so. So it's a pretty decent flow rate. Airflow wise, our fresh food section does have an air duct. So this is a single evaporator. Only in the freezer section is the evaporator. So we do have a damper door and an air duct that will allow air to come up into that fresh food section and circulate around, getting that fresh food section nice and cool. So the airflow tower itself, just one large piece of plastic with some insulation and a spongy seal around it to keep it all nice and stuck together so that we get good airflow. Now that damper door is actually in the air tower itself. It's right at the very bottom portion of that air tower. So if I take my little pen here, and we're going to circle that right there for you guys to see right there. That is going to be the damper door assembly. It's again built into that air tower itself. As far as the freezer air duct components go, the freezer evaporator cover, pretty simple, not too much holding into place as far as a couple clips and 2 screws. Remove the 2 screws in the center of the air duct, that'll pop out. And then you got of course, your evaporator fan and the airflow assembly itself. Not too difficult, pretty simple, pretty standard. As far as our evaporator goes, there's our evaporator in our freezer section. Like I said, it is a single evaporator, so pretty easy. We do have an inline fuse. That is a safety fuse in case for some odd reason we get runaway temperatures. That is a one-time pop as well. So if that fuse goes out, you do have something else going on. You will have to find out the cause of that, why that fuse did go out. We do also have an accumulator for our refrigerant. If in case it did not boil off in that evaporator, that liquid refrigerant will accumulate in that accumulator until it does turn back into a gas. The number 3, that's going to be our temperature sensor, our evaporator temperature sensor. That is what is going to control the defrost of this machine, or monitoring the temperatures of that evaporator to determine when defrost is over. And to make sure that we get proper defrost, we do have a heater in there as well as the evaporator itself. Pretty easy, pretty standard, not too much to that unit. On the rear side, we do see number 1 at the top portion of that picture. We do have the control board located in the back underneath that cover. But down in that machine compartment, what this picture is really looking at is going to be that we have a filter dryer, just like any other refrigerator does. We got our power cord, our compressor, our condenser fan motor, our bottom condenser, the evaporator dish, the motorized valve. We're going to come back to that one in just a second because that is a little bit different wording that we use versus some other manufacturers. Then we have our connectors for our water lines. And of course, number 10, 11, and 12 are going to be my water tubings going to either my ice maker, my water dispenser, or coming from the house water line up to the filter. We're going to see that also again in the next slide. But that motorized valve, number 7. So let's take just a quick second on that. The motorized valve is a little bit different wording. Like I said, that is going to actually be your primary valve for your water supply. That's going to be your main water valve. Why they call it a motorized valve, I don't have a fully clear answer on that, but that is a wording choice that they use. So it is going to be very important when you do go to order parts that you make sure you use the correct terminology. Otherwise, you might end up with the wrong part. Now, if we take a look at the full backside of the fridge, pretty standard looking, not too much different here. But we do have our water lines going to our ice maker and our dispenser, as well as the main water line that runs up to the water filter. Now, again, this is also something that's a little bit different before we move on here. We go from the water source at the house. So the little water connector built into the wall, or the copper line, or the valve, or whatever you would like to call it, or how it's hooked up in your area. We run straight to the filter. We go through the filter, and from the filter, it goes down to the main water valve from there. So that water filter is constantly under pressure. So do be aware of that if you are servicing or installing one of these units. Speaking of my waterway structure, as we talk about the waterway structure, internally behind my crisper drawers, I do have my water tank that's going to hold my water in the fridge area, which allows me to get some nice cool water out when I do call for water. I also have my secondary water valve for that water area. That's going to be a 12-volt DC valve right there. And then, of course, my water tubing, which is going to be my white tubing that flows into the water tank and out to the dispenser on that fridge. My ice maker, down in the bottom portion. Pretty simple to remove. All I got to do is pull out that freezer drawer, take out that top shelf. If I want a little bit more room, I can actually remove the full freezer door out of the way so I can get inside. But two screws in the very front of the ice maker area is going to hold that ice maker in place. Take those two screws out. They are Phillips head, and then pull the ice maker towards you, and that will release the back clips from the top portion where that ice maker is being held in. And then just disconnect the wires. Two wires on there, one for the power and one for the temperature sensor. Looking at it here from a different angle, looking down on that ice maker from the top, you see my two connections. I do have the connection for the motor as well as my temperature sensor. And then from the bottom, I do have my bail arm and my ice tray. Pretty simple flex tray ice maker, nothing too fancy on that. My water pipe, my incoming water supply from the rear of the unit is removable. If for some reason that heater on that little water pipe does go out, it is replaceable. That whole water pipe assembly is replaceable. All I have to do, what I recommend to do, is first off, take the ice maker off. That allows me to get up inside and make sure that ice route or that ice flow or that water flow area is nice and cleaned out. Then from the back side, I can take the back cover off. By taking that back cover off, I can pull out the water supply hose and one little Phillips screw and pull out that water fill line area. My door assembly, pretty darn easy for the door as well. I do have my tabletop display for my user interface. I do have 3 screws, all Phillips head screws on across the top. I can take those 3 screws out, lift that Phillips head up, and then take out the bolts for the hinges on the door, lift the hinges up, remove the door as needed. Now, this comes in, for those of you, we're going to see this in the install class tomorrow. This is going to be a little bit more for you guys, but we're going to see it again tomorrow. But if you ever do need to take that door off, make sure you disconnect those wires and lift up off that hinge. Now, when you go to reinstall the door, this is where I do want to take the moment real quick on today's class to make sure when you do install the door or you go to put the door back on, that you do connect the lower shaft of that hinge into the proper hole. There's only one hole there that allows the peg to go up through, the hinge to go up through, but there is a secondary little indentation that the pin can think, or you think the pin is going into. That's not actually the hole. All right. Oh, excuse me for a second. Sorry about that. Gotta get a drink. Okay. Moving on. All right. My user interface or my display board real quick. That is that top table. So when I go take those 3 screws off, I do have it available right there. And it's pretty simple to get into. Once I put that into that top tabletop into a service position or flip it over on its back, I can pop out that user interface display by taking out the couple Phillips head screws that hold it in place. And then, of course, I do have a couple clips as well, retaining clips that will pop it out. Easy replaceable. Also in that upper hinge area or that cover, that tabletop cover, I do have a couple magnetic door sensors. So all of our door sensors are magnetic with a magnetic reed switch. They just have a magnet on the other side of the door. Pretty simple, pretty standard. My main user interface or my main control board, my main control board is on the back of the unit. I do have a cover on there that has 5 screws. Take those 5 screws off and that gets me access to my main control. That's where I'm going to do the most of my testing from this unit. To get that main control board out, I do have a Phillips head screw and I take that screw out and I can just pull that board out once all of my wires are disconnected. Now, as far as my electronic control system goes, now this is where we're going to get fun, because a lot of you guys have sat in some classes before. You see all the complexities that a lot of manufacturers are having in their machines. But let me ask you this. Have you guys seen a wiring diagram that looks so darn pretty? In fact, I'm going to just say one thing when it comes to this wiring diagram, and that's going to be this. From my good friend, one of my favorite characters ever, Mater off of Cars. Look at that wiring diagram. That is just a beautiful thing right there. That is simplistic. So that's one thing that Hisense really has put an effort into, is we want to make a product that looks good, that works good, that fits the budget that most consumers are looking for, but we want to make it easy to work on for the technicians. So here's our wiring diagram. It is about as simple and as pretty as it can be. All of your low voltage is going to be on one side, all of your high voltage components on the opposite side. And it's going to be laid out pretty easy. There's not a lot of bells and whistles on this machine. It's going to be a refrigerator for you. It's going to cool like it's supposed to cool. It's going to make ice like it's supposed to make ice. And it's going to dispense the water like it's supposed to dispense water. Nothing too fancy on it. Now, as far as error code goes, there is a self-diagnosing function on this machine. So in order to get into the self-diagnosing function, all I got to do is press and hold my freezer button for more than 3 seconds to enter my diagnostic control. Then the refrigerator temperature display is going to show the letter R, and then I can press the ice on off button to scroll through any potential codes that are shown. And this is going to run through all of my potential codes. Now, just for the sake of time today, because I do have two other units I do want to talk about, I'm not going to go through all of these codes, but they are going to be made available to you guys. So you do have the ability to see these PowerPoints later on, as well as pull these codes up. We're going to make sure that you nationwide members all have access to this. But there's not a lot of codes either, because again, we don't have a lot of extra componentry on here. So one thing we're going to show you on this is I'm going to give you the code. We're going to tell you what you need to look for that particular code. And then I'm going to give you the exact PIN numbers on the main control board to look for and what your readings should be based on that code. So for example, if we take my, let's say E3 sensor, my E3 code, that's my sensor, my fresh food sensor. And I have an issue there. It's not cooling properly. I need to check that code. Well, I need to go back to my main control board, and on my connection number 4 between pins number 9 and pins number 12, I should be reading somewhere between 0.33 volts and 4.84 volts DC. If I'm out of those specs, then based on the temperature that I'm in, then I need to replace either my sensor or my control board, depending on which one is not giving me the proper information. And it's going to be like that for several of our error codes. Again, there's not a lot of componentry on this machine, so we don't have a lot of errors on this machine, which is kind of nice for both the consumer and the technicians. Now, if you want to lay out the components that we do have, kind of see that here. I'm not going to read through all these again, just because of time frame. I do want to do a quick overview on our dishwasher and our range that just came out. But on the layout, again, pretty easy, not too difficult, pretty standard refrigerator. And if you want to break that down one more step for those sensors and where those sensors are located, yes, I do have a temperature or environmental sensor, humidity sensor up in that upper tabletop control. And then I have a fresh food sensor, my defrost sensor on my evaporator, a freezer room sensor, and an ice maker sensor. And that is it. What do those temperatures look like and those resistances look like based on those temperatures? Well, here is your little chart. I've highlighted a couple of the key temperatures that I would always say we should kind of get an idea for each manufacturer, what those readings are. For Hisense, here they are right there. Room temperature, about 75 degrees. I'm looking for a resistance of 2.1 K ohms resistance. My subsystems, how this unit works. Again, just kind of real quick, go through my sealed system. Yes, all of these units, all of our units are going to be R600A refrigerant. We do not make any units that are 134. Every single one of our units are R600A. And so again, we have our refrigerant flow from our compressor into our condenser, into the evaporator, and then back around through. Our airflow, again, all of that cooling action is taking place in that freezer portion. And that damper door is going to open up and the fan's going to pull it up into that fresh food portion and cycle that air around that fresh food. And that's all going to be based on the temperature sensor demands in that fresh food section. My water flow. On my water flow, again, just a reminder, I have my water supply from the house, runs directly to the filter, which runs down to my motorized valve or my AC valve. From there, it goes to either my ice maker or my water tank, which from the water tank has my 12-volt DC valve on it, which is going to dispense my water out to the dispenser. With that, do you guys have any questions, or are there any questions in the chat that I can't see yet for the refrigerator?
None in the chat at this time.
None in the chat. Okay. Most excellent. Well, I'm going to keep moving then. If we got one that pops up, if you guys do have a question, feel free to ask, write it in the chat. But let's get into the dishwasher, because the dishwasher is a little bit different than what some of us might be used to. So with our dishwasher, as always, I'm going to start with the same kind of breakdown. We're going to talk about diagnostics and error codes, so a little bit of testing procedures, and I'm going to show you the wiring diagram. But before we get to that, let's get into the serial number breakdown. Now, this is a little bit different than the refrigerator itself. Now, in this one, our dishwasher, the production year is going to actually be the first digit. The very first digit is going to be the production year. So in this case, I have a 1. That's going to be 2011, 2021, 2031, etc. The next 2 digits is going to be my production week. So the week that it was actually produced. Then the next digit is going to be a 3. That 3 is very important because Hisense is a Chinese-based company. And to the Chinese tradition, 3s are a very important number. They're a very lucky number. So there's going to be a 3 in our serial number. That digit's always going to be there. It's always going to be a 3. And then the last 4 digits, that is going to be the position it was produced on the manufacturing line. So just like before, here's my dishwasher that I have, and here is my serial number. I got a 029311543, which means this was going to be produced in 2020 on the 29th week, which is around July 18th-ish. And then you got the number 3 because 3s are always cool. And it's going to be number 1,543 on that production line. Now, this is where we start getting to some of the things that are a little bit different. Now, because we are an Asian and European based company, we do have a bit of a difference when it comes to our drain lines. The drain line comes obviously already attached, as well as the power cord. The power cord comes with the unit already attached. But where we're different is on the drain line. On the drain line, there is going to be an adapter, because not everyone has a built-in garbage disposal. They might have a straight stand-up pipe that they go into. So we need to make this adjustable for those different styles of connections. So we have this tiered drain line on the very end that is going to allow you to take and trim off the end of the drain line to allow it to fit which portion of, or which proper drain size of the tubing that you need. Now, this is the pictures that you see here. This is going to be pictures that we took of the original product when we had to first add that adapter to it that we picked up. But now everything coming off the manufacturing line does have that different tiered drain line already attached to that drain hose. Now, just like any other drain line, though, we do need to make sure that you have a high loop. The high loop is going to be a necessity for you. If you do not have a dry loop, you're going to have very bad washing capabilities. So make sure that high loop is in there. More importantly for you technicians, though, is going to be, how do I get into diagnostics? Well, I'm glad you asked, because here it is. Our user interface is a little bit different as well. One thing you're going to notice right away is that looking at it, there is no start button. We're going to cover that here in the next few slides, but there is no start button. So there's a power on, my cycles, and then my features, and then my time remaining. So to get into diagnostics, or to access diagnostics, I do need to wake the machine up, so power it on, and then within 10 seconds of powering it on or waking it up, I need to simultaneously press the leftmost program button and the rightmost extra button and hold it. Once I hold it, it's going to start blinking and flashing at me, and I know that I'm in diagnostics. Once I am in diagnostics, I'm going to press the leftmost program button to change the setting. And then I'm going to press the leftmost extra button, or extra features button, to start that particular subsetting. So to get into diagnostics, leftmost program or cycle choice and the rightmost extras or features button, press and hold those simultaneously till my user interface blinks. Once I'm in there, my leftmost cycles or program buttons will scroll through my tests or my componentry, and then the leftmost extra button or cycles, or leftmost extra button or leftmost features button to actually start that subsetting. Now, what do those subsets look like? Again, just for time wise, I'm not going to roll through all of these and read you each individual one, because I do want us to have some time to cover the range. But first up, the biggest thing for you guys as technicians is I'm going to get my user display errors. So I'm going to scroll through the errors that the machine has produced. Then I do get a test programs failure, which is going to be a automatic test that we'll run through. We can start that automatic test, and it'll roll through all the following diagnostics and produce an error code if there is one. So all of those diagnostics that go through would be for different functions or component failures that you might run across. Everything from water intakes to the drain pump not pumping out water, those wash motor not cycling properly. And there's also a factory mode reset. Now, on a factory mode reset or a total reset, we need to do this when certain components are changed, such as the sump assembly, the motor, the drain pump, or the main control board. You change out one of the main components on here, you need to do that factory reset or total reset to make sure the units and the control board are re-lined up together and on the same page. As far as my error codes go, I do have a pretty good extensive library of error codes and possibilities that could happen that you guys will all get at the end of this session. We'll make sure that, again, you will have copies of all these PowerPoints for you to go back and take a look at, as well as continuing to watch this broadcast for, I forget what they said, like the next 30 days or so. So again, I'm not going to roll through every single error code, but I'm going to give you the error code and what the technician should be checking for and looking at. The last thing I want to bring up as far as my dishwasher goes is the way that you start the dishwasher, because again, I did say that this was a different way to bring it up and how to start it than what we are used to, because again, we don't actually have a start button on our dishwasher. And our dishwasher's been out for about 2 years now. And when we first launched it, a lot of people were very confused on how to start the dishwasher. And they thought there was something wrong with it, when in reality, they just didn't read the user manual. So let's take a look at how to start the dishwasher. Oh, is that working? There it is. Okay, so did you catch that? It's a little bit different. So to walk you through the steps, one more time, you have to power on the unit. You choose your cycle that you want. If you want any extra options, such as an extra rinse or heated dry, then you add those in. And then you press and hold the cycle that you chose for about 4 seconds, and the user interface will start to blink. You shut the door and the unit will run. If you forgot something, no sweat. You can open the door, add in your extra dish or silverware, and then you need to do that press and hold of the cycle that you chose for that 4 seconds again in order to restart the dishwasher. So it's a very European design on how the dishwasher starts. Something is we're not used to very much here in the US, but that is how the Hisense dishwasher works. Any questions on the dishwasher? I'm going to take the silence as a no. All right. So for the last few minutes here, I do want to introduce you guys because you are independent. Most of you are independent servicers that were watching this. You are going to start seeing this out on the market because it just launched about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago. And that is going to be the Hisense electric range. The Hisense electric range. So now we have a full kitchen suite available, and it's going to continue to expand as we move on. So real quick product overview. When it comes to our serial number reading of this particular unit, the first 3 digits, they may not always be on. This is where it gets a little confusing on the serial tag itself. When you go to look at it, it's going to start with the very first number, which is the production year. But in reality, there's actually 3 zeros in front of that. So just something to kind of keep in mind in the back of your mind. There's actually 3 zeros at the very beginning of the unit. Then we get into the production year that you're going to see on the actual sticker. That's going to be the first digit is going to be the production year. The next 2 digits is going to be the production week. And then we're going to have a control digit. Now, this one's a little bit different. A control digit is going to be kind of like our, I guess for lack of a better term, like a batch number. We're going to know, hey, this whole group of ranges were made by this particular shift on the manufacturing line. So, or something along those lines. So it's a control digit. So that's going to change as it goes through. You may see one that has a 3 in it. You may see one that has a 4 in it, or a 5, or a 9, or a 0, or whatever the case may be. And then the last 4 digits is going to be the position that it was produced on the manufacturing line. So looking at the sticker of my range at home, this is what we got. We have the first 3 zeros, which aren't actually on that sticker. But then we have the production year, or the first digit, show up as a 2. So it's made in 2022. The next 2 digits were 33. So that's the 33rd week of the year. The control digit was a 9. So that was made by the 9th shift, or the 9th line. I'm not sure exactly what the control digit is, but they said that's what it could be, a couple different things. And then they said it is a control digit. Then this was number 170 off the production line that day. As far as my configuration goes, it's a standalone or freestanding 30-inch smooth surface, 5 elements, 5.8 cubic foot oven, self-cleaning with air fry convection. We all know air fry is the big thing, so we're diving into that whole air fry business as well. Looking at my cooking zones on the top, my glass top, I do have 5 burners. I got a 6-inch at 1200 watts. I got a 7-inch with a 100 watt warm zone, double ring cooking zone with a 1400 watt and 3300 watt. And then I have another version that is out on the market as well. Same basic setup, but a little bit different wattage when it comes to the double ring and burners or elements. As far as the control unit goes, looking at my control unit, again, just for the sake of time, because we only got about 10 to 15 minutes before the trade show opens up here. So we're going to just kind of breeze through this a little bit. Again, you're going to get a lot of this information that you guys can view. You'll get all of the PowerPoints. There's even extra PowerPoints in here that I'm not covering that we're still going to give to you guys with some more information. But on my control unit, this is the basic look of my control for my oven. Pretty basic setup. I mean, we got our bake, we got our broil, we got some different features and zones on there, which we're going to talk about here in a second, which actually is pretty nice. This is very big for us at Hisense. This unit is the very first unit that we have that is or does have a Sabbath mode available. In the past, even our refrigerators and personal cooling devices did not have a Sabbath mode to it. This is the first unit that we do have that is a Sabbath mode. There does have a Sabbath mode function, which does comply with all of the Star K standards. So that's kind of a big deal for Hisense. We're very proud of that and getting that Sabbath mode put in there. As far as that Sabbath mode goes, one thing that is a little bit different or might be a little bit different than other manufacturers is we can set the baking temperature and time to a specific point, such as 350 degrees. And we can adjust that from anywhere from 175 to 425 degrees, but it's going to hold that temperature from anywhere from 1 hour all the way up to 74 hours. So the default time it's set is that 48 hours. So for that whole Sabbath mode from the sundown till the end of the Sabbath, it will actually just hold that temperature. And that does actually comply with those star K standards. And then the one thing I do want to share with you guys on this as we get ready to start wrapping up here is that we do have an adapt sense portion. Now the adapt sense is actually pretty cool because this is going to give us the most frequently used temperature settings for different items. So we can choose these different items from the control, and it'll automatically set to those default settings or those default temperatures based on what we're looking for. Now, we do also like to promote, even though the unit is self-cleaning, we actually prefer and promote to use the steam clean function. And it is on the user interface as well to hit that steam clean button. And you can pour about a half cup of water into the very bottom of the oven, the very bottom of the oven. And by pressing that steam clean button twice, that will turn on the steam clean, run it for about 30 minutes. All of that water will start to evaporate and you can just wipe down the oven with a dry cloth. Now, the reason this is important is because steam clean takes away so many of the issues that self clean does have, such as those really high temperatures that end up popping those thermal limits or safety devices. We have also the really high temperatures that causes that really nasty smell in the consumer's homes that they don't like. Well, steam clean takes away all of that. Then last couple things is we do want to talk about the error codes and show you the wiring diagrams, and then I'll open up for any additional questions. Error code wise, we actually have quite a few possibilities of error codes. Now, I know as technicians, some of us think, oh, if you got a lot of error codes, there's a lot of things that could go wrong. In reality, no, we have a lot of error codes to help guide you. There's actually not a lot of extra componentry in this machine. It's a pretty simple machine to work on, but we give you a lot of error codes to kind of help guide you as you go through to make your repair. And again, as you see on the screen there, as we go through the error codes, not only am I going to give you the error code, but what you need to look at or the items that could cause that error code to pop up. And then the very last portion, your testing procedures. What do I need to look at? Do I need to go to, for example, that 005 error? That's going to be a sensor error. I can use a heat source of some kind, like a heat gun, and check the resistance on my resistor R15 and R16 and see what it reads or if it's reading. So quite a few different error codes that will help lead you and guide you through the course of your diagnosis. Now, looking at the wiring diagram, whoops, a lot going on this wiring diagram. I'm not going to lie to you. There's a lot going on because it is a range. We are going to break down individual components or break down those wiring diagrams into more individual components or sections. So the wiring diagram itself is actually going to end up being about 3 to 4 pages. One thing I did not include in these couple slides that I do have here for you today as you're looking at the wiring diagram is that on the 4th page, we actually break it down into strip circuits as well for each one of those individual components. So quite a bit of information, where your connections go, what you're looking for connection wise, your colors, your wires. And with that, we got about 5 minutes left, I think. Do you guys have any questions on servicing Hisense equipment today? I know that was a lot of information. We covered 3 products in a very short time. That's kind of a more overview for you guys, because I know a lot of you have not seen Hisense equipment yet. And hopefully it looks good to you. It looks like it's easy to service and you'll be happy to service it.
Hey, Tim,
Yes.
if somebody was interested in servicing Hisense product, what would they reach out to you? Meaning that maybe they don't sell it right now, but they feel like it's something that they want to look into. Is that who they would reach out to?
Absolutely. Yes. You can reach out to me directly and I will forward your information over to the warranty service team and they will get in contact with you. And I actually just found out today that we are now accepting our servicers or independent servicers for our own service network. So for those of you that were in the roundtable yesterday, we talked about how everything was going through that third party warranty distribution or warranty companies. Now
Right.
it's coming direct to us. So we now have the capabilities to release that and sign up directly with Hisense like you normally would with any other manufacturer. So yes, you can get in contact with me and I'll get your information sent over to the warranty service team and they will get you set up.
Good to know. And your contact information